Hi there, this is Tina Heisman, Certified Master Life Coach. Thank you for joining me today on my weekly marriage coaching call. Today we're going to talk about apologies, about when saying I'm sorry isn't enough. But before we get started, I want to let you know that I have a free private Happy Wives community on Facebook where you can come to get inspiration for your marriage. And it really is a happy place. And you can find that at facebook.com/groups/The Happy Wives Community. If you can't remember that, don't worry. Just head on over to my website, tinaheisman.com, and there's a banner at the bottom of the front page. Also on my website, I have created a free download called the Marriage Makeover Guide. It's a guide to help you make over your marriage into a happier, more fun, more joyful, and peaceful place. It will help you solve problems in your marriage one by one, step by step. So head on over if you are interested in checking that out. Okay, so now on to our topic. When saying I'm sorry isn't enough. Have you ever felt like you had trouble expressing to your spouse that you were truly sorry for something you did that hurt his feelings? Or maybe you have felt trouble accepting a sincere apology from your spouse. There might actually be really good reason for that. Can you believe this? This is good news. This is exciting. So many of you are familiar with the book, The 5 Love Languages by Dr. Gary Chapman, right? Well, Dr. Chapman has also written another book with Dr. Jennifer Thomas. It was originally called The 5 Languages of Apology. So there are 5 languages of apology, 5 ways to say I'm sorry. This was a revelation for me because when you realize that sometimes you just are not getting that I'm sorry across to the person, you just might be communicating it in a way that they're not able to receive. So we're going to talk about what those different 5 languages are today. First, I'm going to take just a minute to briefly list what each language is, and then I'll describe each one in just a little bit more detail. So the first is expressing regret. The second is accepting responsibility. The third is making restitution. The fourth one is genuinely repenting. And the fifth one is requesting forgiveness. Okay, so 5 different ways to say I'm sorry. I'm sure you're already intrigued by the names of the languages. So let's just take a minute to look at each one to help you understand. Expressing regret. That means showing that we feel bad about what we did. So for most people, an apology is not really an apology unless they hear the words, I'm sorry. For many of us, in order to truly forgive someone, we need to see that the other person who hurt us, that they really regret what they did, that they really feel bad about it, and that they care about us. And so this is the most really essential and basic element of an apology. And for some of us, it's important, but for others of us, it's really important, and we really deeply need to hear that someone feels sorry for what they did. So that's number 1, expressing regret. And the way you do that is just by saying, I'm sorry. It's like actually saying the words, I'm sorry. Easier said than done, am I right? I know some of you are probably thinking, oh, that's so hard to say. Why is that so hard to say? But it is. Okay, so that's number 1, expressing regret. Number 2 is accepting responsibility. When we accept responsibility, that means we admit that we were wrong. And without excuses. See, we all can find a good excuse for why we might have made a mistake or behaved badly. But the truth is, whatever the reason is, it doesn't matter because it doesn't change the fact that what we did was hurtful. In fact, we should be very cautious about giving excuses because they can negate the apology for some people. If you're, for example, if you say to your spouse, I'm sorry I yelled at you, but you made me so mad, or you shouldn't have done that, or I'm short on sleep, or I worked hard all day. Those are excuses for bad behavior. They don't count, and they negate your I'm sorry. When you insert that word but after the I'm sorry, you're negating the I'm sorry. And so what we want to do is just cleanly accept responsibility for what we did. Say, I was wrong, and then leave it at that. Don't go giving your justifications or your excuses, because they really mean very little to someone who was hurt. Okay? So that's language number 2, and that is accepting responsibility. And that simply just means saying, I was wrong, acknowledging that you know you were wrong. Okay, so number 3, language number 3 is making restitution. So that means making it right, making good from the error. Dr. Chapman and Dr. Thomas explained in their book that sometimes expressing regret, which is saying I'm sorry, and taking responsibility, which means saying I was wrong, sometimes those two things are not enough. Sometimes we need to make a restitution to make an apology sincere. Restitution assures the other person that they're loved. And this is really important for some people, because they might be thinking, you would not have done that if you really loved me. But it's not true. You do really love them. You just made a mistake. And so one way of making restitution is, for starters, asking your spouse or whoever you offended, is there anything I can do to make it right? So just coming right out and asking them, and they might say, well, yeah, you can fix this thing, or, or next time you can do this instead, or something like that. They can show you what it might be. Another option for you is just to simply speak your spouse's love language, their regular love language, to help reassure them of your love. So maybe you forgot to pick up the dry cleaning for your husband, and he's going out of town tomorrow, and he's, just so stressed out by this because he needed the dry cleaning. Well, a way to make restitution could be to run back out, be inconvenienced and run back out and try to go get it if the store is still open. If not, if his love language is gifts, perhaps there's a way that you can find a small gift for him in the near future to speak that love language, or maybe you could make him a nice dinner, or just do something else nice out of your way to show him, I realize that I made a mistake and I want to make it up to you. So that is number 3, making restitution. And that just simply means asking your spouse or whoever you offended, what can I do to make things right? Okay, so number 4. This one is genuinely repenting. So genuinely repenting means promising that you will try not to make this mistake again. For some people, an apology is not sincere if there's no assurance that you will try not to make the same mistake again. And it reassures your spouse that you will take action to make sure that this mistake will not happen again. And depending on what you're apologizing for, you might even need to make a plan and share a plan with your spouse for what you're talking about. So I'm just going to throw an example out there of money, since money can be stressful in a lot of families. If you and your husband have a budget that you stick to, and you went over the budget, and maybe you've done it several times, and he's just really fed up with you, and your I'm sorry's are not enough, and he doesn't believe you, and he doesn't trust you, then try to think of a plan to share with him what you can do to not go over budget again. Does that make sense? Pretty easy. So it's scary, though. I admit it's scary to say, I will try not to do it again and to come up with a plan. But some people really need to hear this from us in order to truly accept our apology. Okay. So number 5, the final language, is requesting forgiveness. This is also a really hard one and really scary. Requesting forgiveness means asking for freedom from the guilt of your mistake. Basically, you're asking your spouse to forgive you, to free you from the burden of the guilt. And this can be pretty humbling, but for some people, it's the most important thing they need. If you ask your spouse to free you from the guilt of your offense, it might feel for you really scary, but it's a really powerful gesture, and ultimately it's going to set both of you free. You're both going to know that you're forgiven, and this mistake is going to be put in the past, and you can move on from there. It's a scary thing because it means that you're going to relinquish control of the fate of your relationship. You know, you're putting it in your spouse's hands and saying, will you forgive me? Are you going to forgive me? And it's scary to do that. But this is actually something that's very powerful in an apology, and it really can be a major tool in bringing healing to your relationship, especially if you are in one of those situations where you keep making the same mistake again and again, and your husband has trouble, believing that you're really serious about the change. So those are the 5 different love languages. I'll just repeat them real quick for you. Expressing regret, which means saying I'm sorry. Accepting responsibility, which means saying I was wrong. Making restitution, which means asking what you can do to make things right. Genuinely repenting, which means saying I will try not to do it again. And requesting forgiveness, which means asking, will you please forgive me? So those are the 5 languages. And just like with the regular 5 love languages, Dr. Chapman suggests making sure that you're speaking your spouse's primary apology language when you apologize. But he notes that it doesn't hurt to roll in the other languages as well, especially if you're not sure of his love language. I'm so excited to share this with you because I think it's not really well-known information. And apologizing is one of the most important tools for building and maintaining relationships in our life. It's so healing. And, girls, when you live with someone like we do in marriage, there are guaranteed to be times when we need to apologize. And we want to make sure that our spouse knows that we mean it and we're super sorry. And so speaking the proper apology language is just such a wonderful tool because in the heat of that argument, it can really help cool it down. It can help your spouse know that your apology is sincere, and it will help your apology be accepted. And this alone can really start to help rekindle love that has been dimmed in your life by different painful experiences that have happened. And in turn, that can help you restore and strengthen your marriage. And it just gets rid of some of those failed attempts at apology, the tired excuses and everything else. And it's going to open up your relationship for more honesty and trust and joy. And so I think this is a really important topic for all of us to know more about. Hopefully this little overview was helpful for you. But if you want to know more about it, you can check out the book. It used to be called The 5 Languages of Apology, but the name of it has been changed to When Sorry Isn't Enough, Making Things Right with Those You Love. And the authors are Dr. Gary Chapman and Jennifer Thomas. So it would be a great book. Just like every book Dr. Chapman has written, it's easy to read. It's relatively fast to read. It's written very conversational, and he shares a lot of stories with you to help you see how it works in action, and I think that's just so valuable. So the book is a resource, and also if you need help working on this, I would love to help you. Please reach out to me. So that's the end of our call for today. Remember, if you need help working on your marriage, there's a free mini marriage makeover on my website, and also the Happy Wives community on Facebook. And I work over the phone with all of my clients one-on-one coaching. So if you need a little help in your marriage, then certainly stop by my website and let me know. Okay, everyone, thank you so very much for joining me. Have a wonderful Tuesday, and I'll talk to you next week.